Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live. Peace. Ken and Shawn Porter, how are you guys? Thank you, obviously, for taking the time out to give us an opportunity to interview you here on the Boxing Voice. How are you guys doing this evening?
I'm good. This is Ken Porter. You got me.
Ken, what's up, brother? What's up? Happy to have you. Actually, I wanted to talk to you specifically because we visited Keith, and he seems just as adamant as you guys about the rematch. So it made me feel confident. I know that you, on the business end of things, may not, because you've seen and heard fighters act the part before, but until the contract is actually signed, you probably don't believe some of this stuff. But he seems to want to do better than he's done the first time, and he believes that he can. And he feels that the fight with Danny was not a challenge, so he doesn't want to waste his time in that direction. He really wants Porter again after obvious, a tune-up. So he made it clear he's only having 2 fights next year. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be you guys. And I just wanted to get your immediate reaction to at least knowing that Keith seems to want this fight for the end of next year sometime.
That's good news. That's good to hear. I know Keith for a long time, so I've never felt that Keith didn't want to fight us. It had to be what was right for him and the right time, and I think that everything that he's done this year, as far as he had to take time off for his injury, and then also he got married. All those things had to come and be taken care of before he could, make his decision about when he was going to fight. And it makes sense to take a fight with someone, other than a top guy when you first come back. So that's good news. I'm glad to hear that.
Hey, Ken, it's Matt. Good to have you back on the show. Obviously, Shawn Porter said that he hurt his hand in his last fight against Adrian Granados. How's the hand? What's the status of the hand injury?
He had a fracture in his hand. Initially, he did not tell me that he hurt it during the fight. And the bad part about that was, after I figured out what Adrian's game plan was, I wanted Shawn to use the left hand all night. That was the hand that was injured, 5th round going into the 6th. So I was imploring him in the 7th, 6th round, 7th round, 8th round, 9th round to use this left hand, and he didn't tell me what was going on with it. But when we got the glove off his hand and got to the back with the doctors, we thought it may be broken because it was swollen twice the size of the other hand. So we did get 3 different looks at it. Well, actually 4. The New York doctors. And then we got a doctor to look at it here and take x-rays in Vegas. After that, we flew over to see the Lakers doctor over there in LA, and that specialist over there looked at it, more x-rays. And then the last stop was the Cleveland Clinic for MRIs, and it came back that he has a fracture in his hand, but we don't think that that's going to be anything. They don't believe that's going to be anything extensive time off. It could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months, but since Keith is preparing to fight someone else at this time, it's not a problem for us. We'll just work on our right hand, and when it's time, we'll be ready.
Hey, Ken, Alex, we were down there with Keith, and he mentioned to us, jokingly, like, how much more could Shawn change?
No. Stop being modest. He said, what the fuck is Shawn Porter gonna do? He already went hard. What is he gonna do? Go XXX hard or extra hard? No, XL large hard. Some shit like a shirt. You know how shirt sizes are?
That's about what he said. Yeah. So what do you say? What do you say to the fans that are, the ones that probably may not want to see the fight, and even to the fans that do want to see this fight again, that thought that it was entertaining. What kind of things, what kind of adjustments or changes, or what extra things does Shawn Porter bring to this fight coming up now that he has fought with Keith in the ring under the lights and kind of knows more about the field being in there with him?
As far as that type of thing is concerned, as far as him saying what else could Shawn do, well, that remains to be seen on fight night. Like I said to the commentator who called the fight, I said, if I had been in Keith's corner and I had sent Keith after Shawn, and Shawn had out-jabbed Keith all night, and Shawn out-fought Keith on the inside all night, there'd have been no question about who won the fight. So it just so happens that Shawn did that to Keith, but didn't get the credit that he was due in that particular situation. So there is definitely more he can do. Keith's going to have to catch up with us in the jab department. I think we landed like 54-23 for him. And he's going to have to outfight us on the inside as well. But we're going to stick to his ass like glue. So if he's wondering about how much harder he can go, I'm quite sure he can go harder. And it was a life and death battle for Keith. He knows that, But, when you're a year after that fight, you can say whatever you want to say. And it can make you feel, like, you made it through it and you were successful. You got his hand raised. And, it can bring on some visions that, you did better than you actually did. But it was a life and death battle for him. He knows that. And, as far as I don't know who that would be that wouldn't want to see that fight again, because that was the fight of the year. You haven't seen very many guys get in there and put it out on the line like those two guys did that night. So whatever the case may be, we just fought two guys to make sure that we're in position to fight him. So while he's, chilling and while he's rehabbing, we're getting ready and we'll be ready.
Shawn, excuse me. I said Shawn. Ken, I wanted to ask you, obviously, like we've been visiting Keith, like I said, and he brought up, well, we all kind of brought up the Terrence Crawford scenario and him now being in the division or going to be in the division and how much publicity he gets from HBO and Max Kellerman on SportsCenter, and Keith wasn't happy about that. He feels that they're, I guess, jumping the gun. He wants to see Terrence in with a true welterweight, and he did hint at a Shawn Porter fight, but obviously not before, because he wants it first. But he did hint at, a Porter Crawford fight. He's like, I would like to see Crawford in with a guy like Porter because he's not a true welterweight. And he says, does anyone really believe Terrence Crawford can dominate 147 the way that he dominated 140 pounds? So I wanted your opinion on whether or not you feel Crawford can just hang per se in this division, or is he capable of dominating in this new division?
I don't think anybody in this division is ready to, give up what they've got going on. Shawn isn't, Keith isn't, Danny isn't, Errol isn't. All of these guys are going to say, you know what, if you're coming up this way, you got to deal with me. So I don't think there's anybody that's already here at 147 already there that's not ready to take on that challenge. But from a business standpoint, and from the standpoint of these guys already putting in the work with each other, they want to, prove that they are the best there. And I understand Keith's position. This guy, Keith feels that he's proven that he's the best. And this guy shouldn't be allowed to just come in, walk in, and, sit down to eat. For us, we had to work to get to this point. We had to work to get back to Keith again. I think that when Terrence does come in, he's going to be successful, but it's not going to be easy road to hoe for him. Give us an opportunity to fight Keith Thurman. After that, whoever's there, we're interested in all those fights, especially the, Terrence Crawford fight, the Danny Garcia fight, the Errol Spence fight. All of these guys need to fight each other in order to be great. So he's not going to be able to walk in there and just dominate these guys aren't going to take a step back. They're not going to do that.
Hey, Ken, will Shawn take a tune-up fight because of the fractured hand, or will he look to get the Keith Thurman fight immediately after the rehab?
No, we've already done 2 fights. We fought a title eliminator with Berto. Then we just did another title eliminator, which should have just been the interim title, but we fought another title eliminator against Adrian Granados, and we fought him with one hand. So, no, I think he's paid his dues. He's put his work in, and he'll continue to put his work in, but he'll be waiting for Keith.
So Ken, is it a thing that you and Shawn will know in training during this particular time off while Keith is fighting and getting himself ready? You'll know whether or not that hand's 100% in training and in sparring. You don't need an actual fight to throw it with 10 ounces, 8 ounces, whatever it is that you guys use these days. Well, it's 47, so 8 ounces.
Nah. What would you want to do? Take a fight and injure it and say, oh, well, it wasn't 100%, so we got injured? No, you fight the fight that you want, and you give it everything you got. If your hand goes in that fight, it goes in that fight. If the hand doesn't go and you in the fight for the 10 rounds or the 12 rounds or however long it lasts, that's what you do. So no, you don't test it out in another fight. No.
Well, shows your medal. That's exactly what Keith did coming out of the car accident. He went straight into a Shawn Porter fight.
Ken, obviously Shawn's
car accident, man. Come on. You really think that was a car accident? Did you see our x-rays last week? Would you like me to send you our MRIs? We can send you all of that. That's not a problem. I can send you some of that stuff while we're on the phone right now. Keith was not in a car accident.
You know, it's funny that you say he wasn't in a car because we didn't even ask him over this weekend that we were there, and he just brought it up. Like, yeah, man, I was in that accident, and see, it's different because when I was injured then, he's like, look, it's different. When I was injured then, I felt well enough to go straight into the Porter fight. I got to see if I'm injured now. He says, because he says in March, right? Because here's the thing. We have an amazing interview with him. It was like 4 hours long, right? So he says that in March, if his elbow feels good, he don't need a tune-up, and he'll get that Shawn Porter fight. But if his elbow doesn't feel 100, he said his tune-up will be a Jesse. I'm like, well, Jesse's no tune-up. He's like, well, Jesse might not be a tune-up to you, but he's a tune-up to Keith one-time Thurman. So I don't know. You're right. Maybe he doesn't need a tune-up.
Nah, he need whatever he feel like he need is what he need. But just like you spent time in Florida, I spent time in Florida. I know people in Florida. I know people in Florida very well. I know people on very high levels in Florida. I deal with the same people that Keith deal with, and I asked him specifically. I like to see some medical information on that. I never got any. You know why I didn't get it? It ain't hard to figure out. Come on, man. Don't let nobody bullshit you. I didn't get it because it didn't exist. That's why I didn't get it. And you talking to a guy now. Remember, I have one of his former stablemates with him for 20 professional fights. He had 20 professional fights in the same gym with Keith.
We're talking Lenroy
and
Thomas.
He knows there was no car accident. Yeah. And he knows there was no car accident.
Oh man, you throwing Lenroy all under that bus.
I'm not thought. There's not nobody throwing nobody under the bus because there was no cars or buses in no accident.
I miss these Ken Porter show days. I swear.
so come on, man. Think about this for a second, okay? If I get into a car accident with a brand new car, me here in Las Vegas, immediately, who am I calling? The first person I'm calling is my insurance agent. Immediately, along with if I need the police or the ambulance. That's like 3 cars that'll be automatic, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, my insurance agent immediately is like trying to protect themselves. Shit, how much money we got to pay out on Ken here? We really don't want to pay out a lot. We want to get money coming in, but we don't want to pay shit back. Okay. So when those phone calls was immediately made to the people at the highest level in the state of Florida, hey, have you had any new call reports on this kind of car? Never happened.
So
there was no accident. Never happened.
Ken, you know you
But
saying
you
right here live
shit.
on the show that you start calling.
Hey, you can check some other shit and find out where he was chilling at that weekend. It wasn't no car accident though. Believe that.
Where was he chilling on the weekend? Where was he chilling?
You would have to ask him that. You would have to ask him that. But remember, and you said, I don't throw nobody on the bus. Lenroy know who he rolling with, who he decided to side with. He know I got his back, his front, his side, everything.
No.
So I ain't throwing nobody under no bus. Me and him walking together. As a matter of fact, we be getting on the plane this week. Him and I be going to Jamaica. Be his first time going to Jamaica to see his mom. He hasn't seen his mom in 20 years.
Wow.
When he was 11 years old. He's going to see his mom. You feel what I'm saying? I'm taking him to see his mom. So he know who's taking care of him, who's looking out for him. So that's why.
Let me record all that. We gonna open up this Lenroy Thomas story right there, man. You know he got that big ass David Allen fight coming up, and I heard all the whispers, man. I hear all the people calling, trying to get a Lenroy Thomas fight, and I'm hearing you also have some good news to at least tell the people in reference to Lenroy and his future. So, I mean, I'm just saying I'm available. I'm totally available to go, you know, and just shadow you guys so that the people see, you know, that reunion. That's some good footage. Maybe Showtime will even use that in the future because, you know, he hasn't seen his mom. You want that on camera. I'm just saying from a publicity standpoint, you want that on camera for that big fight. Because I'm hearing something big might be coming. I'm just talking.
I don't know anything more than what we're dealing with right now, which is first and foremost getting him back home. But he sent me a picture last night, and he said this was the last time I took a picture with my mom. And he was just a little boy with, you know, in that picture, man. And, you know, it just blew me away when he first told me when we were in the UK together. When he told me he hadn't seen his mother in 20 years. And I said, all right, when we get back, we're going to see your mom. But he wouldn't allow me to buy him a ticket. He wanted to fight first and make some money and get his money together, and then he wanted to go. So, you know, he fought, he won, and, you know, we getting ready to leave in a few days here. We headed over there, you know, and, you know, I don't know what to say as far as, you know, somebody that's in that type of situation where, you know, they had to leave their home, their country, and weren't allowed to go back because after he got here, the 911 situation happened, and he came here to get an education. If he had gone back, he'd been giving up his education because he may not have been allowed to come back into the United States. And that's why he's been here as many years as he has, pursuing, you know, an education, then, you know, also playing high school football, and then after that getting into boxing and becoming a professional fighter hasn't allowed him the opportunity to go back home. But, you know, we're getting ready to go back. Actually, myself, Shawn, my assistant trainer, Larry Wade, a couple of people I know out of New York, we're all jumping on flights this week, and we're all headed over there. We're going to have Mother's Day for him.
That's amazing. That is. I spoke to him, actually. We spoke to him actually this weekend when he was down there, and yeah, we had a good talk. He seemed in very high spirits and very happy with everything that's happening with you guys. And you know, it's funny because before he had got to the gym, Keith was telling us how he feels that Lenroy has one of the fastest jabs in the heavyweight division, and he actually said it reminds him of the Muhammad Ali jab. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on Lenroy as a heavyweight, and what do you see in his future now?
Well, you know, that's a good thing that Keith can see that type of thing. I'm gonna reserve the right to wait until that happens in a fight on a high level to be able to say that that's the type of jab he has. But he does have very fast hands for a big man. For me and my personal experiences, he's definitely one of the fastest big men that I've ever seen as far as his hands are concerned. So, you know, it could be one of those situations where maybe Keith is looking at it saying, you know, he's never seen a big guy, because Lenroy is a big man. He's 230 pounds of muscle. 6'3", and maybe a little bit more. And for him to move his hands that fast, it can be deceiving to the eye, but it definitely appears that he's got speed that you don't normally find in big guys. You find power, but you don't find that kind of speed. So the thing for me right now is to be able to get him to use both at the right time.
And is the Dave Allen fight, that's official, right? Is that what's on the agenda?
No, you know what? And those guys over there have been, they've been talking it up and saying different things about the fight in the UK. And you're talking about throwing somebody under the bus. They really threw Lenroy under the bus, because I contacted them probably 3 months ago and said, hey, we're not going to be able to fight the rematch on the Anthony Joshua card, because it would be conflicting with Shawn's fight that we have coming up. And we didn't know who we were fighting at that time, but we did have a date. And so the fights within, 1 week of each other, it wasn't going to work. I couldn't leave Shawn 3 weeks before a fight to go to the UK with Lenroy and, come back a week before the fight. I couldn't do that. That's not going to happen. So they were alerted to that early on, that we wouldn't be able to take the fight. But for whatever the reasons were, they, pumped it up over there as if Lenroy was still coming and going to take the fight. And so now that, that didn't happen, everybody in the UK blamed Lenroy for not taking the fight. But everyone who was in position to, put the right information out over there, they knew well in advance that he wasn't coming over. So now we're dealing with a situation of possibly rematching at a different date, and I am waiting for them to, make a phone call to me. I've been calling them every day and texting them, but I'm waiting on them to call me so we can have a meaningful discussion and hopefully come to the conclusion of, what the price is going to be, and we'll fight Dave Allen. If that doesn't happen, some other big fights have come up, and we've gotten some calls about that for him as well. So we'll see what happens. Right now, we're trying to make that Dave Allen fight happen.
All right. Well, Ken, man, we don't want to take too much of your time. You've been on for about a half an hour, brother. Thank you as always. Enjoy Jamaica. It's a great place. I'm sure you've been there. And hope Shawn a speedy
this would be my first time. I've been to Bahamas, but not here.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, Negril, man, is definitely Negril. The 7 Mile Beach in Negril is definitely the place to go and see beautiful water, and definitely go for the jerk chicken or pork. However you take your poison, man, because it is amazing out there, especially the beaches and the food. Oh man, it's amazing. I've been there about 4 times. I love Jamaica.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what's up.
But all right, Ken.
So,
sorry.
So let me ask you this: Did you happen to ask Lenroy what happened when him and Keith came in contact with each other for the first time?
What, in sparring?
No, here recently when they hadn't seen, Keith hadn't seen Lenroy since he, took up. He's under contract with us now.
Yeah, no, he didn't tell. I mean, he was there. He came to the gym like nothing. Everybody was cool. So I didn't, see the need to ask how has he been treated since he left, because it seemed like everything was all good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Lenroy told me that he bumped into him at a fight, I guess, possibly the week before. And there was a couple of questions to the effect of, why did he leave and why he didn't stay and why he wasn't with those guys anymore and that kind of thing. And I guess basically Lenroy said, I didn't feel that, I was going anywhere, anything good was happening for me at all. And so I had to make a move. And so, I think Keith possibly may have, felt some kind of way that, he should have stayed and been there with those guys. But, got to do what's best for you. So the things that, Lenroy is doing now and that we're doing with him, which has absolutely nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with an opportunity. Lenroy just needed an opportunity. So that's what he's getting now. And
so what's that opportunity, Ken? Drop the bomb, baby. What's that opportunity?
The the opportunity is just what has happened. You know, we won a 12-round fight over in the UK. He turns right back around a few months later, and he's on the undercard of Shawn's fight. He turns right back around here, you know, possibly in the next 6 weeks or so, he's fighting again. So, you know, that'll be, you know, for him, those 3 fights in 1 year will be, you know.
Well, in this country? Oh, in the UK.
In the UK. Yeah, we look to be, we're trying to solidify that fight, and that would be December the 17th, so it's less than 6 weeks.
Okay. And what happened to that Spanish kid you had that you brought to the East Coast for like that one time when Shawn sparred in Gleason's with God's Gift? I can't remember this kid's name. Booker, maybe? Booker? Cordell? Yeah, Cordell Booker that day. That day you had a Spanish kid. You don't remember?
You know, what happens with these guys, which, yeah, no. What happens, yeah, I remember. What happens with these guys is a lot of times they, you know, watch TV or Facebook or Instagram and that kind of thing, and they say to themselves, hey, I want to get with this person, I want to work with them, but they don't understand the work that it entails. You know, like when people see a 60-second video of Shawn doing something on the track, and then they go back and they start working with their fighter on that 60-second workout that they saw on YouTube or Instagram, they don't get to see what Shawn has done since he's 4 years old. They don't get to see what Shawn has done, you know, in over 250 amateur fights. They don't get to see what Shawn has done, you know, in 30 professional fights. They don't get to see all the other work. So you can't get it by watching Instagram for 60 seconds. You just can't. So, you know, I brought that kid in, you know, trying to help him out a little bit, and, you know, that workload immediately just kind of overtook him, and, you know, he decided that, you know, that wasn't what he wanted to do. He wanted to, you know, try to make it another way, and, you know, that's good too. That works, you know, because that eliminates me having to, you know, waste my time. But, you know, people watch Instagram and Facebook. I call them Facebook fighters, and they think that they can just do this, but you don't understand the workload that he's had or what it took to be able to do that movement that you're seeing for 60 seconds. He's been practicing that over 20 years of his life.
That's right. How much do you think social media has an impact now on the sport of boxing, especially when it comes to making these matchups?
I don't know how much the impact is. I can't, you know, from a percentage standpoint, but I do know that it ruins fighters. The fighters lose before they ever get to the ring. You know, they lose before they ever get to the ring because, you know, they think, could you imagine, which obviously you guys probably already know this, but I'll say it anyway. Could you imagine what would happen if I said, hey, everybody, Kenny and Shawn Porter, we're here in Las Vegas. Come on out here, join us, join our gym. And we get all these guys jumping off Greyhounds, jumping off planes, coming out here. I'm going to be with Porters, this kind of thing, turning up in Las Vegas, so on and so forth. And none of them have what it takes to actually, you know, put the work in to get the results that's needed to be successful. And that's not to be in a negative standpoint to saying that a guy doesn't, you know, have talent. You can have all the talent in the world, but do you have the work ethic? Do you have a foundation? Do you have the things that it takes, you know, to wait for something, and the patience that it takes to wait for something to happen for you, and just keep grinding and keep working at it every day? And you can't get that watching a 60-second video. And if you think you can get that watching a 60-second video, then you probably need to run over to Mayweather's place or some other, you know, some of these other places, because that's not what we're doing here. So, you know, I just call them Facebook fighters. Can you imagine? I mean, look at all of these guys, and it's, you know, it's not to, I don't want to call out any names, but look at all of these guys that, you know, post all of these different videos of them working out and all of this stuff. And, you know, they catching these pads and they throwing these 1,000 punches and pop, 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 pop. But how many fighters do you actually see get in the ring and throw any of that in the ring during the fight? None of them do. It just don't happen. You know what I mean? So it definitely ruins these guys to what they think they should be doing. It ruins them to, what they think is going to happen for them. It ruins them to, what they, think their careers are going to be. You got, for a lack of names or words here, but you got professional boxers here in Las Vegas driving Ubers because it didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out.
Man.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah. I mean,
that's that Bounce TV.
I'll use Lenroy for an example.
Bounce TV was just talking about that last night. How fighters don't have any 401ks. Austin Trout was bringing that up. So you're right. If it doesn't work out, you got to do what you got to do to feed the fam.
Yeah. I'll use Lenroy for an example. Lenroy is a perfect example. Here's a guy that's been boxing probably about 10 years or something, and hasn't made at a given time the type of money that he needed to make to be able to pay his bills, take care of his 2 children, take care of his home, take care of a car, and also afford to get on a plane and go home and see his mother. Because if he did any of that, something was going to fall off somewhere. He wasn't going to be able to pay the rent, or he wasn't going to be able to pay for the car note, or, because boxing is not, it's not taking care of these guys like that. It's not as lucrative as these guys think it is when they get into it. And it's a long road for them to go to, and they got to make the right decisions in and outside of the ring in order to get to that money. So, that's the bottom line with this. I've been working on Shawn's exit strategy for 3 years. We're not going to wait until, he's 30 or 31 or 32 to start saying, we need to start putting, we've been working on that since he's, 26, 27 years old. We've been working on that since he's 26 years old. We've been putting that away. But, in this particular instance right here, as you said, they said boxers don't have this, they said this on Bounce TV. I didn't see it. I was actually there live, but, there's no medical set up for them. There's no insurance set up for them. There's no retirement plan set up for them. There's nothing set up for, dental, eyes, nothing. There's nothing set up for these guys. So, they get into it thinking that it's, it's going to be all peaches and cream, and then they wind up finding out it's a bad taste in your mouth, and you walk away from it wondering, could I have done something else? Should I have done something else? Look at the guys that fought on Bounce TV last night. Nothing against J-Rock or the guy he fought last night, Ishe Smith, but I'm quite sure Ishe Smith wasn't planning when he turned pro or when he won his world title. He wasn't planning on fighting on Bounce TV. That wasn't part of his plan.
Damn, but Bounce is that bad? I mean, shit, at least it's TV.
No, what I'm saying to you is this. If you start off your career and you're bright-eyed and I'm going to Vegas and Ishe was already here, but I'm going to be in Vegas, I'm going to be a world champion, I'm going to do these things. Bounce is not going to be your goal.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not something when you first started off thinking, and you was thinking about getting a Benz, or you were thinking about getting a nice condo, or you were thinking about taking trips in different places and things like that. You weren't thinking, shit, I'm going to have to fight a young 26-year-old dude on Bounce TV that's hungry, coming off a bad loss and trying to tear my head off. No, you weren't thinking that way. You weren't thinking that way. As a matter of fact, if you were thinking that you were going to be fighting that young kid, you were hoping that it would probably be on HBO or Showtime for some really big money for a world title. In this particular situation that we were at last night, I think it might have been, I don't know, maybe 2,000 people there. I was there. It might not have been 2,000 people there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but that is the platform for two guys rebuilding. You can't expect big network television to pay for two guys to rebuild.
No, that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is these guys think that they're going to be getting so much more than they actually
Oh,
That's
yes.
what they're dealing with and what they're going to be given. They think, there's going to be all of this great stuff going on, and it's going to be a really hard road to hoe. I mean, for Julian last night, that wasn't an easy fight for him.
It
I mean,
wasn't.
I thought he was very dominant in the beginning of it. I thought he was very dominant in the very beginning of it, and he looked very sharp. But
It got
wasn't
tough.
an easy way for him to go last night.
No, it got tough. Ishe hit him with a few right hands you just seen those Jamal Charlo signs again when he got caught with some of those rights. He weathered the storm. Obviously, he kept his hands up well, but he still took him on the gloves. Like when you see a guy take a shot, you either want to see him, especially one that seems to affect him, you want to see him clinch or at least get away from the danger, not stand there and take some more shots in a high guard. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that he needs another Ishe Smith fight. That was a good fight for him. But he didn't win that fight, I guess, the way that I'm sure his team expected. Like he won every round, maybe, or maybe 8-4, but he had some moments in there that I'm sure they were fearful. I know I was fearful. I mean, he looks good, though. He's so good technically, especially on the inside. Nice short shots. He likes to catch and shoot. But I don't know. I mean, we got to see how he's going to keep taking these shots because Ishe's not known as a puncher. But, I mean, I heard Trout on the telecast also saying that, that Ishe does have deceptive power. And I've watched the fights with Ishe and, Jacobs and Ishe and Fernando Guerrero early on. I mean, it's not like Ishe's a walkover. He's a tough cookie. No one's ever stopped him, so it was a tough assignment, but you want to see a guy like Julian who had a lot of, high hopes and people were touting him, who then suffered that setback. You want to see him beat a guy like Ishe, I guess a little cleaner, right? Or am I reaching by asking for that?
No, I'm in a total agreement with you on that. I really like what I saw out of him, but I've been in the gym with him before, so I even watched him in the amateurs. So I've seen him up close and personal. I've watched him, and he looked, I mean, as nice as you could look, as good as you could look in the beginning of the fight with his jab, his right hand, his left hook, his combinations, and his form, his speed, everything is there. It's all in place. It's that thing that you're talking about, as he starts to, maybe mid-rounds, as he starts to take a couple of shots here or there, there's the reaction that comes after that. There's a little bit of, concern there. But, I mean, everything else, technically, he was beautiful. I really was impressed with it. But I knew I would be, and I was, talking to somebody next to me, and the kid's got a beautiful jab, beautiful double jab. All of his straight punches are clean. Everything looks good. But as you said, there's that point where he gets caught a few times, and you start to wonder, what's going on here now? What's going to happen? So, that's the type of fight he needed. He needed that fight. He needs, some others, to be able to solidify himself and get himself back in that position to fight for the world championship, which I think he'll be able to pull that off. I think he'll be able to get there, and depending upon who he's fighting. But the Charlos is a huge task for anybody that comes across those guys. Two kids right there that, again, I go way back with. I know those guys at 14 at Northern Michigan University. So, great fighters. Julian, I think, is a great fighter as well. But again, Charlo was able to win that fight, and you still have that residue when you take a loss like that, and you get hurt. You still have to climb back up, and you still see that, as you said, you can see that in the fight where you're kind of questioning, is this going to be that kind of situation again? But he made it through it, and he's got to get on, to the next one and do it again. Speaking
of concerns, our topic today was obviously Wilder and Luis Ortiz. Seems to be, how they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. So it seems like this is going to be scheduled again. And, with Luis Ortiz and his consistent, Matt, help me word this properly here. What could we say because he keeps popping, but he also keeps beating it somehow in the sense that they don't do shit.
He's had numerous positive tests for substances.
Yeah, he's tested positive quite a few times for some banned substances. So any concern in Wilder getting in there with a guy that's popped twice now just to prove to the world that he is that he's fought someone because Wilder's thing is the public doesn't give him any credit and he wants to prove himself. In every interview you see him, I just want to prove myself. And everyone feels Luis Ortiz is that guy. And in my opinion, until Wilder beats him, then all the haters are just going to say Luis Ortiz was old. But what's your opinion of that subject?
Well, me personally, if I was involved with the situation, I wouldn't even revisit it again. 2 times is too many. I wouldn't revisit it again. But I understand his position somewhat, but there's definitely bigger fish out there to fry that, should be able to pass that test. If we can't, we can't even get to the point, get to fight night, and this continues to happen, then, I wouldn't want to be in that situation again. Me in particular, my fight has been drug testing for many years, but, here recently, in the last 2 by the WBC, he's received random tests, and it could be on a Sunday when he's on his way to church, or it could be on a Friday night when he's on his way to the movies. And so the drug testers have actually gone to the movies with him and sat and watched the movie because you can't leave out of their sight once they arrive. And they've actually gone to church with him. Again, you can't leave out of their sight once they arrive. So if that's the case and it's random, and the guy has failed twice, there's a good chance, a very good likelihood that if they're randomly popping up on him again, he could fail again. So, I wouldn't want to do it myself.
And what about the Wilder-Joshua fight itself? Like, outside of Ortiz, he's been obviously adamant about wanting to fight Joshua. He says Eddie Hearn and Joshua are ducking and dodging. He had Shelly Finkel, Eddie Hearn, and Tyson Fury on this show a couple Sundays ago, clearing a lot of things up because, Eddie Hearn has made his own statements in the media. But Wilder seems like he wants Joshua now. What's your thoughts on that? And how do you see that fight actually playing out?
It's a great fight for him. It's a great fight for boxing. I think, definitely 2 contrasting styles. And I see Wilder winning that one by, a knockout. He is not a guy that is going to do the things that you expect, from a heavyweight to be more technical, setting up things. He's a guy that's just going to really go in there and look for his knockout every time. And, 99% of the time, he's getting those knockouts. The other kid, on the other hand, Joshua, which I was at the World Championships with him in 2012. We were in Azerbaijan. I actually sat and had lunch with this kid like 2 or 3 times that week. And I watched him every day, he's a young kid going there and beat all of these guys and get to the championship, which he lost the gold medal. He received the silver. He lost the gold medal to a guy from Azerbaijan, no less. So you go figure that part out. But, I had an opportunity to see him and watch him as a professional, moving from the amateurs, actually being there, and then watch him as a professional develop to where he's at. And that fight that he had with the Klitschko was a great fight, on both sides, on both guys, behalf. It was a great fight. I think if that had been Klitschko, 5 years sooner, something like that, Klitschko would have been able to pull that off. But, Joshua is a much more technical fighter than Mr. Wilder. And so that's going to be the contrast of the styles, and the styles and what makes the fight. So that's the fight that I would really like to see. And I see Joshua losing, or I see Wilder winning by knockout.
Now, you know a lot about business. Me and my team were in Alabama, and Wilder tells us that the fight will do more than 2 million pay-per-views right now. And his reason is because we're heavyweights. I seem to believe the latter, which is Eddie Hearn's plan. Let Wilder fight Dillian White. Let Joshua fight someone else in the interim and meet in the end of the year where the fight would be a little more, meaningful. Probably the U.S. public knows Joshua a little bit better. I mean, Wilder hasn't done 1 million views on Showtime probably ever. Right, Matt?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So I don't know, but do you think that fight, because they're heavyweights, the way Wilder says, can do 2 million pay-per-views?
Well, coming from from his perspective, I'm quite sure he believes that. But coming from a perspective that, if you go back and you look at his previous numbers and you look at some of the previous numbers of just the last few pay-per-views, he's probably not that fight is probably not going to generate, what Canelo and Triple G did, or what Mayweather and McGregor did, or Mayweather and Pac. It's not going to be that type of fight. But me personally, if you take it to the UK, you're going to get 100,000 people in that stadium. And so that's going to offset your pay-per-view, whatever that might be, or whatever you don't get, you could definitely make it with those people coming through that door. So, it's still a fight that's going to sell. It may not sell that many. It may not get the pay-per-view numbers that you want. But if you take it to the UK, you're going to pack the house.
And Ken, since you know a lot, you're basically an insider, right? With all the information that falls on your lap. We seen Carl Frampton.
I'm a snitch.
No, not at all. Not at all. We seen Carl Frampton fighting.
I'm a mole. Okay, I'm a mole.
No, not at all. But we seen Frampton in the UK. And last I heard, he was a Heyman guy, but now he's with Frank Warren as a promoter. It doesn't mean he's not with Heyman, but can you clear that up? Like, why would Carl Frampton go back to the UK when all his competition is over here? Like, the Abner Mares, the Gary Russells, the Leo Santa Cruzes. I mean, everyone is over here.
You know what? I don't know. I'm a friend of Carl's. I've hung out here with him in Vegas for a month. He trained at our place, and I've gone to the UK and trained at his place. But no, he switched up his alliance with his trainers and his managers and his promoter. He changed all of that. So, everything is new now for him. So I don't know what the reasoning was behind that at all. I have no clue. But I expect, when I go over to be able to hang out with him again and train it wherever he's at. And then I also expect that, when he comes back here, the same thing will happen. But I don't know what happened, man. It was kind of shocking to me because when they were here, it seemed like a very happy family, a very happy situation that they were all in, management was here. Obviously, it was a Heyman promoted situation, well, a PBC situation. And then also the fact that, his trainer and him were very close and had been close. They boxed together as amateurs. So that's Barry McGuigan's son. So him and Shane were amateurs together. They traveled together. So they had a great situation. I have no clue what changed all that.
And I'm over here typing. My fingers are bleeding because I'm trying to type my co-host like, yo, fall back, man. We're on the line with Ken Knows All. He's like, Ness, what do you mean? That fight? He's like, Ness, why'd you ask that question? That question made no sense. That was just a hometown fight for Frampton. It doesn't mean he's not with Heyman, and boom, you released that he's not with Heyman. Matt, you always learn something. Ken always breaks news. But listen, Ken, give us up your social media. I know you're on High Performance on Twitter. Instagram. Let everybody get that. And Shawn, so we can wrap it up. We want to thank you, obviously, for your time. Always appreciate that, and always good to have you on. Good to have you back, too, We love the days when Ken would just be in the queue listening.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. Even though we're not fighting here anytime soon, there are going to be a lot of things that are going to be happening, that are going to really excite people and catch everybody's attention. And you got a little taste of that when Shawn Shawn called out Danny, to let him know that the WBC wanted us to fight for the interim title, but and questions from people like, why are you fighting Adrian when you could be fighting this guy or that guy? Sorry to be able to, the one to tell everybody we couldn't get a fight, couldn't get anybody that we wanted. So, a lot of those guys were already scheduled to fight somebody else, and other guys had no intention of fighting us. And we wouldn't want to fight anybody but Keith anyway, but, he was out injured. And also, he got married. So looking forward to some of the things that we got going on in 2018. Some big stuff coming up, and I'd like to have you guys be a part of that as well. So I'll stay in touch with you so we can release some of that stuff together. You can find us, me personally, Porter High Performance. That's Porter, Porter, High, HY Performance on Instagram. And then everything for Shawn is Showtime Shawn P on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And, we look forward to 2018. It's going to be a big year.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much.